Global Transformation Astrology, GTA, with William Stickevers.
Even my Democratic friends from New York City can admit, even though they still plan on voting for Biden, Democrat again, even if it's Kamala Harris, must admit, in all honesty, that things were far better with Trump in terms of the economy, in terms of national policy, in terms of trade, in terms of finance, in terms of pension stability, right? If you just look at those things, right, and put aside the political rhetoric, the conditions of the country were far more stable and growing compared to what's happening now. And yet we look at Biden's approval rating is slightly better than Trump's. So this is the big problem here. That's why I don't necessarily trust the polls. Now, that doesn't mean Trump was perfect. But what I'm getting at here, all right, because he certainly wasn't. He certainly did things that, threw gasoline onto the fire. But that being said, the big reason I know these approval ratings of 43% are much, much lower is look at this. If you look at the direction of the country between independent, non-voters, voters, Republican voters, Democratic voters, registered and non-registered voters, look at what the direction, right, that 62% as of today believe the country is on the wrong track. This is a much more telling sign. Now, this was nowhere near the level of what we saw when Trump was president back in 2019 at this point in his term. So that's why I'm really, skeptical of I believe that number is a lot lower. I believe that number is probably, if we look, let's look at Carter, right? Carter was 40. I believe Biden's number is actually lower than Carter's. I think the economy is worse than it ever was during Carter. Ever. Right? Now, I was around when Carter was president, and I knew the economy was bad, but it's much, much worse now. And we didn't have these other issues happening, and we weren't nearly on the verge of World War III. So, right, when you see the direction of the country, like, okay, well, I still plan on voting Democrat no matter what, William. But yeah, you're right. You've been right in GTA. I don't want to admit it, but you've been right. But that ain't going to change me wrong. No problem. I understand that. But you do agree, right? That, when they say about 60%, oh, I think the wrong track's actually low. I think it's more, should be like 90%. Look, folks, it was almost 80% in July 22nd, 2022. I believe we're going to see that go right back up, no doubt, right? When we see unemployment spike. Now, the other reason I say that is look what's happening. We have eclipse forebodings for Biden. We see the solar hybrid eclipse, right? April 19, 2023, making a direct hit on Joe Biden's moon. And Joe Biden is planning to announce any day now that he is running again for election. And by the way, I'll go more in detail about this, but Joe Biden's loosening of the bond, his Zodiacal releasing and loosening of the bond, occurred on April 12th. Just occurred. And that is not a very good foreboding, meaning between the eclipse and the loosening of the bond, it would indicate we're going to see a series of catastrophic, I don't know about catastrophic. We're going to see a series of Biden's internal base support inside of DC, and his Democratic base support will begin to collapse. And we're going to see some major policy setbacks. We're going to see him take a hard hit from the Republicans in Congress, particularly over the spending gaps and the budget, right? The budget. And we're going to see all of that come to a head this summer. Also, there's no way, the plausible deniability that the economy is going from bad to worse, and that the banking crisis is now being accelerated by the collapse of the commercial real estate sector. You have to remember, folks, that the 5 banks that went out in March required more monetary interjection to save them or to shut them down, to secure the accounts, than occurred all throughout 2008. They injected far more money, and there's much more to go. And we're not even including, right? And then we have to factor in Swiss, right? The Swiss, Credit Suisse, and what happened with that. So we're seeing here that the plausible deniability of the Biden administration that America's winning the war in Ukraine, everything is fine, the economy's good, everything is fine, the economy's good, Trump's over, Trump's out, right? All of that is going to collapse. It's going to collapse. And we're going to see a come to Jesus moment for many Democrats, right? So we're going to see a lot of Democrats. Here's my prediction. A lot of hardcore blue, I call it blue dog Democrats, are going to start looking to other candidates, particularly Kennedy. So, right. We're going to see Kennedy, I believe, is running. So we're going to start, so instead of Gavin Newsom being the successor, all right, we're going to see Kennedy and particularly him and others. We're going to see a lot of those blue dog Democrats start splitting. We'll see internal splitting inside of the party. When everyone thinks the Republican Party is split, everyone's for, Trump is splitting the party is going down, right? When I see this eclipse, that tells me something like the question, will 2024 be Trumpzilla's revenge? And will this have to do with the fact that Democrats will start fighting amongst themselves? We'll see not Ted Kennedy, what's his name? Robert Kennedy Jr., right, starts getting traction. He starts getting massive traction. That's my prediction. We're going to say, and see, you got to remember something, folks. When you have an incumbent party beginning to go into a nasty primary, going all the way back to the first elections of America, that incumbent party lost by massive landslides. So, right. So let's say, now I like Robert Kennedy. Actually, I think he's a good guy. He's anti-vax early on. He's pro Bitcoin. There's a lot of things about him. So, I'll have a lot more to say about him, and it's not endorsing him, but this is more just like, okay, we're going to see people going over to him, right? And we're talking inside the Democratic Party, right? The only chance they have to take on Trumpzilla, who's now gaining traction, because the prediction markets and lawyers and everybody knows nothing's going to come of that New York case. Nothing's going to come of the Georgia case, right? He's gaining massive traction now. Is they need someone else to take him on, right? Should he become the nominee, and it's a possibility now he will be the nominee. I haven't made a final determination on that, but he's still, right? He's still going to make, he's still going to be a force to contend with all the way up to the final days of the Republican convention. That's what I can say with certainty. However, we're going to see Kennedy gets traction. And if there's a big feuding contest and it comes down to, we don't know who the Democratic nominee is going to be until last minute, because there's all this infighting and they can't decide on who's a winner. And then you have all of these particular, what do they call it? These super delegates switching sides, right? Like we saw, we will see a Democratic defeat in 2024, even though the astrologers have already started saying a definitive, a very clear victory for Democrats. So that's where I see things standing, because I know the history of elections well enough to know they cannot allow a contested primary, Democratic primary, presidential primary contest to commence. They cannot allow that, especially if you have Trumpzilla, right? And this is from, all right, Trump is Godzilla and we are Tokyo, right? He is now back in full force. He's in full force.
To watch the full presentation and more like this on geopolitics, the economy, and world events from an archetypal and mundane astrological perspective, join the Global Transformation Astrology membership. Go to williamstickevers.com. Become a GTA member today.